Hello and welcome to B-Movie Euphoria. I'm Nick,
I'm Alex.
and we didn't just get back, but we did have a road trip to find movies yet again, and this one was a jackpot.
I can't remember the last time I've seen this many VHS tapes at a place that wasn't like a video store.
Yeah. So you found about this on
Facebook.
It was like Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah.
And so you sent me the pictures, and it's just like it looks like somebody's basement, and then just row upon row upon row of VHS tapes with no cover and just in there, mysterious. It could be anything. It could be a birthing video, or it could be dad's first tonsil of being taken out. But instead, we found a treasure trove of 80s, 70s weirdo, just great movies, just tons of intense, really good films. And I think around like 200 tapes, something like that.
Yeah.
Over 100.
Yeah, over 100. There's probably 1,000 there.
Yeah.
Total. We just only took like 100 or so.
But this guy, whoever was collecting all this tapes, he had like a category, or like a category.
He had like a video store category system.
Yes. So he knew exactly. And then, so when we got there, I believe it was his wife gave us this folder because he had categorized all the tapes, he had numbered them, and they were all like alphabetized and then also they were by genre.
And there were stickers.
And there were stickers on them. So it was just like, it was incredibly easy. But anyway, we still just like went through all of them and looked at every single tape and took a shitload of them.
And when I say a shitload, I mean like at least 100.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, but it was worth it.
It was interesting to see how this guy had just like collected all these films, and it seemed like maybe he was kind of his own little rental store, at least for like the people that lived around him or the surrounding area. Like they could come down to his basement and they could just pick out a movie, and he'd be like, all right, bring it back in a week or something. Maybe he charged fees or something, but either way, it was really interesting and really cool. We got a shitload of tapes, and we're going to review one of them because we watched one.
Yeah. So the movie we watched is the Kindred. Now, this just looks like a regular blank VHS tape, but
which is
pretty much most of his tapes were.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions, they were all like recordings of movies. Now, we weren't sure if he rented all of these movies and then recorded them onto blanks, or if he obtained them some other way. But at least with this copy of the Kindred, which he made a nice little label of that has the actor's name, the year it was made, the category, and like the MPAA rating on it.
He usually, at least on all the tapes that we have, it's the title, there's the year, and then one of the actors' names.
Yeah.
Which is smart if you're looking for a certain kind of movie and you're like, okay, I know that guy's in it. But some of the, like, he had a copy of Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was like John Saxon was the one actor that was on there. And you'd think maybe you'd put Johnny Depp or maybe even Heather Langenkamp. But this guy knew quality, and he knew...
John Saxon was the real star.
He knew John Saxon.
The star of The Fly, apparently, was Steve Goldblum.
Steve Goldblum. He's a very well-known actor. He's been in a lot of movies, like Vibes. with Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
Laufner and Croatia's Park with Richard Fortenbureau. Anyway, let's go on to.
It was just fun digging through these tapes and
Yeah.
seeing what kind of eccentricities they had to them, and then seeing movies that we didn't recognize because they just had a title that was unfamiliar. Like, we found Pinball Summer, but I didn't know it was Pinball Summer at the time because it wasn't the copyright day of the movie, it was the copyright day of the tape.
And it was called
called Pickup Summer,
Yeah.
which was the US release title.
But yeah, it was just mysterious, and it's just like, it was such a great experience. It was like going into a video store and looking at stuff and being like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to take it home and watch it and enjoy it. So we just had the experience of the video store all over again, just rained upon us.
Yeah, I shouted out so many titles I was excited to find, and it was an enjoyable time. But this tape is I think I have a theory about these tapes now, and seeing this copy of the Kindred. You know, I thought this would have been recorded from like the Vestron videotape, but
well, we were hoping that there were going to be previews, like
if the Vestron video logo would show up and there would be a disclaimer at the beginning showing that he had recorded it from a tape, and then just started at the movie. I was kind of like, oh well, if you did record it for the tape, you just started it right when the movie started, and it probably ends right after the end credits.
Mm-hmm.
But surprise, surprise, after the movie, an HBO promo showed up, and like,
what is this show called? God, it was like
it was recorded. We found out it was recorded off of HBO. So there was a little bumper for this live concert with Sting and
the Boss
and Tracy Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
It was some benefit concert, and then an episode of this sitcom series. But it's about football, and O.J. Simpson and John Kassir from Tales from the Crypt are in it.
Yeah, like, I've never heard of the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looked like a sketch, but a sitcom, but with football players, and they're all having like goofy adventures.
Yeah.
It's just like a bad show that someone pitched to HBO, and they picked it up, and I'm guessing it only lasted like a season because I've never heard of the show.
Never heard of it. What was it? 10 yards down or something?
Yeah, it's something like that.
First and 10.
First and 10.
And what it's called.
I don't know football. I don't know those terms.
We didn't know how much was recorded after the movie, so we just fast forwarded a little.
Yeah.
And just sort of stopped it. Like, the episode for that show started, and it's probably the whole rest of the episode based on how much tape is left here.
So with that revelation,
these tapes could be from anywhere.
All of these tapes may or may not have more than the movie that's on there. So it's going to be heaven from now on. We're just going to be looking at tapes, pulling them, seeing what's going on, and it's amazing. And this movie was pretty amazing. The Kindred. Let's get to the Kindred, because we're already 9 minutes in. We haven't talked about the movie, but we had to explain where we got these movies, because it was exciting and important. And there's still some movies there if you guys want to go.
Yeah.
There aren't any good ones left.
There's no good ones, but, you know.
If you... Anyway, so the Kindred, it starts off with a guy driving, right?
Yep.
And then, I don't know why, but the intro was good, but it immediately erased from my mind. The only thing I can remember is he drives into a house that's in the middle of the road for some reason.
Yeah, it was like a mobile house that slid off of a tractor trailer.
So, oh God, he's driving, and then he drives into a house, and then someone picks up his body, and he's like, oh yeah, that's going to be a good one. So he picks up his body and brings it to Rod Steiger, who is in this movie. That is not going to stick. Rod Steiger. you would know from
Illustrated Man.
Illustrated Man.
That's just me.
In the Heat of the Night, on the waterfront. But basically, Rod Steiger has been okay. This is something that I wanted to touch on. So, my grandfather, my entire life, my grandpa Sparks, was bald my whole life, and then suddenly, in my mid-20s, he decided to start wearing a toupee, and I couldn't handle it because you're so used to seeing someone that, there's nothing there. It's just, the head. And then suddenly there's this huge, like, pompadour toupee. The movie or the hairpiece that Rod Steiger wears in this movie is way worse than that Elvis toupee that my grandfather wore, because it looks like it's a toupee for a dwarf, or like a person with a small head. Like, I have a huge head. I know what it's like to have a big head. I know eventually when I have to get a toupee, I'm going to have to get one for an especially large head. It just seems like he ordered a toupee for his head, and the order got mixed up, and he got the tiny toupee. And that's the only thing I can think whenever I see Rod Steiger in this movie. So Rod Steiger is this clearly deviant kind of doctor that's into experimenting on stuff and people and getting in things.
Genetic things.
Yes, genetic things. And God, and then I think it goes to a woman is sick in the hospital, and her son comes to visit her, right?
Mm-hmm. Son also happens to work for the hospital that Rod Steiger is at.
Yeah. So she's really sick in the hospital. He comes to visit her, and this is our lead character. This is John, Dr. John.
John, is it Collins?
Yes, Dr. John
Hollins.
John Hollins. He's visiting his sick mom, and then she basically tells him, she's kind of like not totally coherent, but she says, basically, I need you to go out to that cottage, that house out in the woods, and I need you to destroy Anthony. Get rid of Anthony. We don't go up there and destroy everything. Just destroy it. And he's like, Mom, what are you talking about? Who's Anthony? What are you saying? And she's like, she doesn't die. She just kind of passes out a little bit. And then we find out that Rod Steiger is very interested in Anthony as well. Also, his assistant, British lady named Melissa, very interested in Anthony too. So, we get a funeral scene, and,
Melissa introduces herself to John. There's some weird tension between them.
There's some sexual tension between John and Melissa, because Melissa's got that, like, British kind of like, and John is just kind of a lunkhead. He's not the greatest lead for this movie. If anyone should have been the lead, it should have been Brad. So, okay, that the hospital, we gotta get into Brad, because he's my favorite character in the whole movie. I don't know about you, but a doctor who walks into the hospital with a boombox, carrying a boombox, listening to classic music, that's how we're introduced to Brad, the should-be lead character of this movie. Anyway, he walks into the hospital that John also works in with a boombox, and he's just, like, listening to, like, I don't know, Rigoletto or something, and he sits down, and then a guy tries to talk to him. He's like, hey, Brad, how's it going? And then he just presses a button on the tape. He's like, what does the tape say? It's like, I don't feel like talking right now. He's
like trying to quit smoking.
Yes.
And he doesn't want to talk to anyone,
Yeah.
so he just recorded.
So he just records responses to anyone that wants to talk to him. And also, he's trying to quit smoking, so he has this device, and he always carries this little metal case. And he shows it to one guy. He's like, "You know what's in here? It's a cigarette, but I got it rigged so that when it pops out, it's already lit." And he shows him, and it's like, it just comes out like a bunch of shit.
Shredded piece of tobacco.
Yes. So we have Brad, who is John's friend. We have Hart, which I think is a great name for a man or a woman. But Hart. We have his girlfriend,
Cindy.
And then I think that's it.
There's one other girl. I forget her name, though.
Yes, and that's John's girlfriend, right? So, John convinces...
Oh, no, there's... John's girlfriend is played by Talia Balsam.
Yes.
And there's one other girl who is getting a watermelon for her parents' anniversary or something.
So all of these characters are brought out to this cottage, woods house.
And here's the thing. We don't remember all the characters' names, but we all remember the weird stuff they did.
Yes.
And that's called good writing.
Yes.
And I like to congratulate the screenwriters. I believe they're the same as the directors.
It's
the team that did The Dorm That Dripped Blood and The Power, two other low budget 80s
very
horror films.
Extremely B movies, but also very good. And this one is there's some really ridiculous, stupid things that happen in this movie, but it works because we care about everyone. We care about everyone because the writing is good. And you care about characters because they say things that aren't stupid all the time. That's just a little tip for writers. If you want people to care about your characters, don't make them say a bunch of stupid shit. Okay? So they all go out to this cabin in the woods. And it's a very Evil Dead setup because they find...
That's a bit nicer than the Evil Dead cabin.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. It has an ocean view.
Yes. Okay. It's a very nice house. It's not a cabin. It's like a nice farmhouse in the woods. But I'm saying Evil Dead setup because they find some recordings and they start listening to it, and I felt very Evil Dead vibes when they were listening to John's mother talk about her experiments and and Anthony. Just basically the hybrid. She keeps talking about the hybrid and Anthony and the subject's doing very well and everything. And it's basically kind of every horror movie you've ever seen where a bunch of characters go out to a kind of secluded house, and that is the vibe of it. But then the movie kind of throws you this insane H.P. Lovecraft kind of curveball where there's this unknowable creature underneath the floorboards that's just kind of there's a lot of aspects of this movie that I really like. Basically, I'm not going to ruin anything because I do not want to spoil this movie because I very much recommend it. There is a hybrid human/octopus.
It's a marine-based life form. I don't know what the gene biome of it is called or whatever, but they keep referencing it in the movie. It makes for a very interesting and very detailed beastie.
Yeah, it's really disturbing. So this creepy thing, there's more than one of them, but the big one's called Anthony. It has a human face and then just a shitload of tentacles and weird, just a gooey center It's just like it constantly like
It's green. It's oozing. I think it has like octopus tentacles.
Yes.
It's got suckers on them.
I saw the suckers and I was like, okay.
But some of the tentacles are like whips and spikes.
Yeah, and they can like cut you if they wrap around.
They like to dig into your skin like the trees in Evil Dead.
Yes.
But
it's just
he's got glowing red eyes and razor sharp teeth, and he's crazy.
And he's like, ah! He's always mad all the time. He's just
and you can hear his screaming over the recordings at the beginning of the movie when they're exploring,
right?
Which is a nice way to get your imagination flowing.
It is, and also, it felt they didn't like bring out the monster right away. They showed bits and pieces of it, but once they did show its face, then they just started showing it a lot. Because they're like, well, we got this thing. We better show how gooey it is. And so they do. So basically, I don't want to ruin anything else. Basically, we have all these people in the house, and then we have Rod Steiger on the outside, who's sent in Melissa. That's kind of a spoiler, but not really. He sent in Melissa to pretend like she's interested in the research, but really basically trying to find Anthony so Rod Steiger can, I don't know, kiss it? Because he seems to be...
He seems to be collecting mutants.
Yes, he's in love with it. Oh my god, you're right. I completely forgot. Okay, in the hospital where Rod Steiger works, there is a basement full of mutants. Just like...
It's a throwaway scene. And
yes.
It's totally... We're totally spoiling it for you by telling you.
I completely forgot about it. Because
it's such a cool moment that never is, like, brought up again. So if you want to see, like, somebody... If your nightmare is being thrown into a cage with a bunch of mutants, don't watch this movie. If you think that sounds awesome, please seek out the Kindred, because I assure you, it's just as creepy and cool as it sounds.
Yeah.
Like, there's more than one mutant, and they're all a little different looking, and it's awesome.
So there's the main mutant, we have Anthony, and then we find out that there are a couple more in jars, in like pickle jars in the basement. Or no, I think it's in just a secret room, her like secret lab room. And they are all pissed. They are all like on the verge of cute, but they are fucking just pissed. And they don't want to be in those jars. And we get so much in this movie. This movie is just like, we get a little bit of Gremlins. We get some Lovecraft. We get Rod Steiger like screaming at the top of his lungs at the end, and then getting covered in this gooey, viscous jizz like liquid. And there's just a lot of good lines. There's a lot of really good moments, and they just didn't make you feel too gross. Like, there are some really gross moments, but you don't feel like you need to take a shower afterwards. So that's a good thing. I would say that's an up point.
Do not sit in the splash zone for this movie.
No! There's so much goo, especially at the end. And I'm not going to ruin anything, but a tentacle gets cut, and it is just shooting hot goo all over. It's spraying the just like...
It's like it's made out of a fire hose.
Yes, I was watching it spray the interior of that house. I'm like, it's like an insulation machine. It's just like covering every square inch of this house with just thick, mucusy goo.
You haven't seen a gloppy, slimy, gooey gloppola monster like this since, some of those guys in the Evil Dead when they get their limbs chopped off.
Yeah, so the monster's really good. The writing is great. The acting, pretty good. Brad's great. Keep an eye out for Brad and his amazing shirts. He had some really good ones. Keep an eye out for Rod Steiger's hair. And I'm trying to think of what else. What are some other good moments? Oh, God. There's a
if you get attacked by a mutant, don't pretend it was a rabid dog bite.
oh yeah, she tries to make Hart gets attacked by a mutant, and then Melissa's like, don't tell anybody, but just tell everybody it was a rabid dog. Okay,
We don't want anybody to panic.
what? Oh, there's a watermelon explodes.
There's a watermelon beastie mutant.
There's an evil beast that crawls into a watermelon and then attacks a woman while she's driving, and then it's really brutal scene because like the things go into her mouth and like in her eyes and stuff. It was fucked up. Anyway, Kindred, great movie. We now have a lot of movies to go through, and
I guess we shall.
yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. So
if you want to find a copy of the Kindred, it's not on DVD. It's on Blu-ray. Maybe someday it will. I'm still waiting. It deserves it, but for now, you know, it's got a VHS release, and you'd think it being such an awesome movie, it'd be like a $20 tape at least. But no, I sold a copy for like I think $7.
I've seen it,
and it took a while to sell it too. So like you could probably find it for $10.
I feel like people have, because when I see the cover for this, and it's basically like a jar with a little creature in it.
It's like a baby bottle
with
a creature in it.
And I think a lot of people are turned off because of the cover. I think that might be what's...
I mean, I always thought the cover was cool. I saw it, I was like, oh, cool. This is definitely a monster movie, and it's definitely one I haven't seen.
Yeah, but
people want, like, a guy with a knife.
Yes, they don't want a baby. They don't want to see a baby bottle on a horror movie. But don't let that stop you. The Kindred, David Allen Brooks, he was in this.
He was John, the lead.
You're gonna like the way you look.
I guarantee.
When you watch this movie. Anyway, thanks for watching B-Movie Euphoria's review of The Kindred.